Welcome to this edition of the YAHOWAH blog. I'm your host, Craig Winn. We are going to pursue our ongoing story of having identified the man who is best known as the Antichrist. We have been able to discern his identity based upon the testimony of Daniel, actually the prophets who came to visit Daniel, to be technically accurate, what was revealed in Ezekiel and in Isaiah. And we determined that the man who is defined as the copper con in Ezekiel, bronze boy, the real estate developer that partners with the Lord, who is Satan, throughout the end of Ezekiel, building the monstrosity that is viewed as the final temple, is none other than the demonic Donald. The man that I refer to as the copper confabulator. And he is proving this deduction, this conclusion from the prophets, to be valid with every word that he speaks. There's almost no correlation between reality and Donald Trump, between what he says and what is actually true. And he is so egregious. He was caught on a hot mic just a couple of days ago, boarding Air Force One. And he was talking about how impressed he was with the fat, bad hair boy, something he has in common with the dictator of North Korea. And he said, that guy is a hell of a leader. And when he speaks, all of his people stand at attention. And the idea was, when he speaks, they all obey. And he says, that's what I want from my people. This is the man that Americans elected president of the United States. He is the great betrayer. He is Satan incarnate. He is already demon possessed, and it is obvious, and probably has been for a very long time. And so we're continuing with what is presented in Daniel, since it is the three most interesting contributors to God's story who are actually providing these prophecies. The lead among them is the most important man who ever lived, the actual Messiah and Son of God, the King of Israel. He is Gabriel. Gabriel means God's most courageous and capable man. His assistant in explaining all of this is a man who is called in this prophecy Michael. Michael is the one who is right about God. He is Yada, the one who knows, and he is Dod's herald. The third individual is not named in this text. He would not be named for another 150, almost 200 years since after this text was written. But in the last paragraph of the last chapter of Malachi, we are told his name, Eliah, known to the world as Elijah. He is returning as one of the two witnesses. He will accompany Yada, who is in this case Michael, and collectively they will be heralding the return of their king, our king, Gabriel, who is actually David. So they are the individuals who are bringing these visions and testimony to Daniel, who is serving as a scribe. And he said, I continued looking. And this particular horn, this political blowhard, was engaged in war against the set-apart ones. This is to say that Donald Trump, as he relocates to Israel, and he goes through the process where he declares his supreme authority on January 29th in the final week of Ramadan in 2030. And then 45 days later, he announces that he, as the corporeal incarnation of Satan, is God and must be worshipped as such on the Ides of March the 15th in that same year, obviously, 2030. 33 days before the arrival of the two witnesses who will appear on Passover, the 18th of April in 2030. It's a midpoint of this time of Yaakov's troubles. Begins on Shabuah, which we are told specifically is the Shabuah of June 11th of 2027. Concluding on Towrah, September 24th of 2033, 10 days prior to Dod's return with Yahowah on Kippurim. And so this is where we are in the text, and it says that he kept looking at this boneheaded blowhard. That's why the term horn is used. That's really one of the two reasons that horn is used. Horn is something that you blow hard into, so it's a blowhard. It is something that garners attention unto itself. It is made of a bone, and it fits on the head, so it is a bonehead. And you look at our pictures of Hasatan, and he's always pictured with horns. So all of these metaphors work on this occasion. And a horn was what early kings wore to display their power and their majesty. So these are all reasons for the reference to a horn. But the horn is not a nation, it is a person. The beasts represent nations and institutions. And it says, I continued looking, this is Daniel, and this particular horn and political blowhard was engaged in war. It actually reads she, as in speaking of the Koren horn, which is feminine in Hebrew, carried out battles and fought, even profited from and celebrated the conflict during drawing near and approaching against the set apart ones, the Kadesh, the separated and special. And it says, and he was prevailing over them. This is also speaking of the horn, but we know the horn is a man, was overwhelming them and overcoming them until the restoring witness, who was also long in days. Means at that point he was reasonably old. He will be 74 years old, as a matter of fact, at this time. At this time, Eliah will be, 2,880 some odd years old. So Eliah will be really, really old, but I don't think Eliah did much aging while he was in Shamaim, so he's going to look quite spry. But it says of the restoring witness who is arriving that is able to thwart the attack on the set apart ones, that he is also old, he's long in days, and that he has come, he was fetched, he has arrived, and he succeeded, such that he provided judgment and justice to the set apart ones of Elyon, the Most High. So let me share with you some insights on this, then we'll conclude the statement, because we're going to get too deep into it before I go back and highlight the interesting aspects of this. So we've got Donald Dumpster, the demonic Don, is now in Jerusalem. He has made the pronouncement that he is a god, and there is war raging all over Israel, which means that his promise of protecting Israel, making sure Israel was secure if Israel accepted the two-state solution and accommodated an Islamic state carved out of its midst, that promise was worthless, as is every promise that Donald makes. And so he went from promising peace to immediately being at war. Now, this is something that the Donald would have learned from Muhammad. and from all of the Muslims who now own him and treat him like he's their puppet. Well, they bought him for $16.5 billion that we know of in bribes, and I'm sure there was a lot more than that. So they have quite a puppet. They bought the president of the United States for $16.5 billion, but they got a country and its military along with it. I'm not sure it was a very good deal because the country is bankrupt and has a negative value of about 40 trillion, but nonetheless, they thought it was a good deal. So they're teaching the Trumpster that there's this thing called the Treaty of Yahowah, where when he arrived and was promising peace, the Treaty of Yahowah says that Muhammad promises that he will not terrorize, he will not make war on, he will not kidnap, rape, abduct, or anything else, murder anyone for 10 years. And the following year, he came back against his hometown again. Babel is what we'll call it. It was actually Petra. And promptly not only conquered the place, but humiliated the people and killed those who had stood against him. It's the Treaty of Yahowah. And so he just flat out reneged on the treaty, but he had Allah's permission to do so because the opening lines of the 9th Surah says any agreement between a Muslim and a non-Muslim is not binding on the Muslim. And so the treaty that the Donald will have made with Israel to protect Israel, and all viewers said, yay, he solved our problems. He's going to win the Nobel Prize. He normalized relationships with Saudi Arabia. He ended the war. He got the last of the hostages back. Isn't he the Messiah? He's the new Cyrus. We'll just call him God since we don't know God anyway. We'll just substitute him. Isn't that swell? And lo and behold, he turned out to betray them, and immediately thereafter there was war. That's what this says. So Israel, you have been forewarned. It's not going to do you much good because you got stoned for brains. You haven't listened to God or changed your mind about him in 3,450 years. I say, why start now, huh? But the man that promised you security, he's going to immediately be engaged in war. He's even going to profit from that war. And the war is going to be against the set-apart ones. Are you aware, Israel, of who the set-apart ones are? It's Israel. You were set apart unto Yahowah to be his people. You are the set-apart ones. And so guess what? The war that the Donald is waging is against you. And you brought it on yourselves. And he was prevailing over them. It is absolutely true. He is going to prevail over Israel. As a matter of fact, during this horrible time, it's called the time of Jacob's troubles for a reason. The prophet Yoel actually says it's the worst time in the history for the Jewish people. That means it's worse than the Holocaust. 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. We're told that during this period, 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die. Present numbers, that's closer to 10 million. So it's going to be twice as bad as the Holocaust. And you've invited it into your midst. You're welcoming him. At this point, it's becoming really obvious in every country but one that Donald Trump is a confabulator. That Donald Trump is mad. And I mean mad in the sense of insane. I know him to be demon-possessed, and more people are going to come to that conclusion over the next few months. But the difference is that Israel still, you value him. He's probably more popular in Israel than any other person, on the left and the right. He's really fooled you. And he's going to bring war, and he's going to prevail over you, and many, many, many Israelis are going to die. And Jews around the world, because it's going to be open hunting season. It already is on Jews. And the only one that's going to stand in the breach and provide justice is the restoring witness, the Yad. And even at 74 years old, this man, armed with nothing but words, is going to make a difference. And those who will listen, just as those who will listen today, will be protected not only from the corporeal manifestation of Hasatan, but from Judaism, from Marxism, from anti-Semitism, and from Muslims. Listen now, and you'll be part of the Shavuot harvest and protected from all of it. Listen then, and you'll be protected from the wiles of all of these characters as well. Words. He is the restoring witness who is long in days, and he came such that he provided judgment and justice. Den. You know, this book is called Daniel. God is judgmental. Den. Den means to judge. You know, the Christian New Testament says, don't judge lest you be judged. Judge not lest you be judged, I think is the way they like to say it in the King James. Well, the restoring witness is going to prevail and going to protect Israelites because he is judgmental. And by being judgmental, he can be just. He can resolve this dispute. He can plead your case on behalf of Yahowah. He can convince you to stop being religious, to stop being political, to stop pretending that the IDF is going to save you, and to start trusting and relying on Yahowah instead. And that is how he will prevail, using words and being judgmental, again, regarding the set-apart ones, regarding Israel. Now, this ends by saying of the Most High, and you're going to say, well, that means that they're the set-apart ones of God Almighty. Well, yes, but indirectly. Yahowah uses the term El and Elohim when he refers to his title. And when specifically addressing him, he is addressed by name. And his name is Yahowah. This says Elyon. Now, I am quite familiar with a person who bears the title Elyon. It means all things attributable to God's hand, to the very hand of God. You know who this individual is? Yahowah announced who the Elyon is, this man who has manifests all things that are attributable to being the hand of God. Elyon. Well, in the 89th Mizmor, which is the most important ever written, at the conclusion of the Mizmor, Yahowah states emphatically that it is David, who is coming back with him on Yom Kippurim. And that as he comes back, he will be as brilliant as the sun, his brilliance reflected for all eternity by what transpired during the Moed by the lesser luminary, the moon. And then God says, he is Elyon in my presence. He is God's right hand. And so the person that this restoring witness is speaking on behalf of, that provide good judgment and justice and protect the set apart Yisrael, is none other than David. He is Elyon. You won't even acknowledge him, Israel. You parade around in the Star of Bar Kokhba, which has zip to do with Dod. It wasn't even used relative to Israel until the 17th century. In Europe, Prague of all places, where you had to get the church's permission to even use it. And you parade around under this symbol as if you are somehow acknowledging David, whose name you don't even get right, and you won't acknowledge that he is God's beloved son, which God says 3 times. More than that, when you count him referring to him as his Bakor, firstborn son, whom God says, he is my Messiah, and yet you're awaiting a nameless Messiah when God makes it very clear. The Messiah that I anointed is David. And he says that Dod is Elyon in his presence. And so this restoring witness, his job, a really complicated job. That guy over there, that guy, Dod, he's the one. He resolved the dispute between you and Yahowah, fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim. He's the one. At the specific appointed time of this occurrence, he reached out and he was extended, approaching and present. He was matzah, so that the set apart ones could inherit the promises and become royalty, sovereign with kingship. Daniel, God is my means to decide between vindication and condemnation, Daniel 7:22. So the conclusion of this begs the answer that I've been providing, and I would dare say, and we do have Miss Leah now and the co-host seat. So this is a nice surprise. She's been suffering from a cranky back these last few days, but it's good to see her in the co-host seat. This ends by telling you that my interpretation of this message is absolutely correct. And yet, in the 2,650 years since it was revealed, why am I the first one to figure it out? Shouldn't be the case. It is, but it shouldn't have been that way. What does this say? It says, at the specific appointed time of this occurrence. What do you think that is, folks? I'm telling you that the day that I'm going to arrive in Jerusalem happens to be on the 18th of April of 2030. It's Passover. But that's the day. It's a celebration of the annual celebration, actually, of the day that David, he provided the means to open heaven's door and to extend your life. Matzah the next day is when he took your guilt, if you're a covenant member, into Sheol to deposit it there, never to be seen again. Bakurim, the following day, is when he went back to the Father to celebrate what it actually means to be a child of the covenant on Bakurim, firstborn children. Now, this particular day, it can't be Shabuah. Shabuah is long past by this time. When is the day that this restoring witness protects the children of Israel from all comers, including Satan himself? Miss Leah?
Towrah.
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 It is. Yom Towrah. That is the time that this occurs. So the specific appointed time of this occurrence is Towrah. It'll be to the backdrop of a full solar eclipse. It is a Shabat. It is the 24th of September, 2033 in year 6000 Yah, 10 days before Dod's return. And at that point, not only will all Yehud and Israelites the world over who are unreligious and apolitical be brought into Jerusalem to benefit from the sacrifice of the Adam of Perah.
You mean those who are salvageable?
Yeah, all the Jews who are salvageable. That would be religious Jews would not be salvageable.
No, they are not.
And overtly political Jews would not be salvageable.
No, they are not.
So the only Jews that are salvageable will be brought into Jerusalem, and in Jerusalem, who will, as the mortal remnant, who will be spared, are those who are anti-religious and who are apolitical. By apolitical, they don't necessarily have to be overtly anti-political. They just can't be overtly political. And those are the ones who will be receptive to being protected and spared at this time. I do not know if that's going to be 7,000 or 700,000 or 70,000. But my guess it is some multiple of 7 that are going to be there. And
I think was going over to quality over quantity.
Yeah, absolutely. My hope is that it's 700,000. I'd be delighted. And I think he would be delighted with 70,000. And it wouldn't be a disappointment to have 7,000.
Here's my hope. Here's my hope. Judging from what I've seen from Yehudim and the diaspora across the world, I'm holding my breath for that hope, because it seems that there's not much morality left in us.
No.
I'm hoping that changes. Really, I am.
Yeah, I have to take a deep breath, because it is exasperating to see Israel commit suicide. Mm-hmm. And that is what Israel is doing. Netanyahu is the devil's associate. Mm-hmm. He is Trump Jr. And he is destroying Israel. Yes, Israel had every right and justification to lash out against Gazan Muslims for the grotesque perpetration of Alaska flood on October 7th. It was horrific, one of the most horrific acts in human history.
As Islamicists, all of the world cheered.
Yeah, and it was
openly.
Yeah, it was perpetrated entirely by Muslims, with a minority of them being members of Hamas, and Hamas was actually irrelevant. Screaming Allahu Akbar, so they confess to the crime. I'm not being pejorative here. I'm just telling you the truth, that 100% of those perpetrators were Muslims. They all confessed to the crimes.
Oh, yes.
Screaming Allahu Akbar.
Oh, yes.
Allah is greater. And Alaska flood is a quotation out of the Quran. It was a purely Islamic act. And it was so horrific that the entire purpose of it was to bait Israel into doing what the Muslims knew they would do. They would invade Gaza, and they would be manipulated over the hostages.
Yep.
So they could control them over the hostages, which they did and have and still do. Mm-hmm. And they wanted Israel to go into Gaza and to destroy it. They anticipated Israel going into Gaza. It was so horrific, that attack, going into Gaza and destroying it, and killing lots of people in the process. And they knew that because they had already arranged their partners in crimes, the Marxists, to promote their scheme, to promote their theme, which was the myth of a so-called people called Palestinians, and the myth of a so-called place called Palestine. And let's all
hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
And the myth of
how well did that work?
Genocide, and the myth of colonization, and all of these kinds of things, that they had already had the lie already distributed, and it was a well-oiled machine in terms of propaganda to condemn Israel, and Israel was caught flat-footed and still hasn't figured out how to prevail. In fact, I have a bone to pick, and now that I've thought about it, I want to scream at Israel. Yeah, you are repulsive. The families of some of those who were killed on 10/7 have actually sued Meta, Facebook, Instagram for showing the images of your sons and daughters, mothers and fathers being killed by the Muslims in their attack on 10/7. And you're suing Meta, where the streams were shown of your loved ones being brutalized by Muslims. And you absolute idiots. You have no conscience whatsoever. You're trying to monitorize what occurred. And you're trying to preclude the number one social media distribution network in the world from being able to show what happened on 10/7. And because you lost the war of public opinion by being unwilling to show the carnage and the suffering that took place on October 7th. And the Muslims are now showing, even imagining what they're enduring in Gaza. You lost the war of public opinion. The world hates Israel as a result. You are going to have an Islamic State carved out of your heart, making you indefensible as a direct result of having lost the war of public opinion. And now you've got the grotesque immorality to sue Meta, to sue Facebook and Instagram for doing what Israel had to do to have any chance of prevailing. You disgust me.
The reason for it is because they're too busy being goddamn religious.
Well, no, most of the people who suffered on 10/7
weren't religious.
No, they weren't religious. They were Marxists. They were working in kibbutzim. You know what a kibbutzim is?
Yes.
It's a communist farm.
Yes, I know.
They were working in communist farms. They loved the whole myth of fakest Indians. They thought the fakest Indians were just great. They all wanted to live in harmony with the fakest Indians. They were the ones who invited them into their fields and into their homes and into their child's nursery schools.
Mm-hmm. They did.
And then the children at the rave were children primarily of liberal parents who went to a rave where Buddha was the big symbol. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, it was a drug fest. The kids had no. Listen, I'm not blaming them for bringing their own death upon themselves. These kids did not do that.
No,
they did not deserve to die. No. But they were extremely liberal children, and most liberal children come from liberal parents. And so the parents of those who suffered on 10/7, the survivors, family members, are two sets of extreme liberals. Now, again, I'm not blaming them for being liberal, causing their death. Muslims caused their death. But because of their political mentality, they have no clue why this happened to them. There was a transgender man, woman, I don't know, dressed as a woman, so it's a transgender man, right? Mm-hmm. That pretends to be a woman, that was all beat up, face just messed up, all terrible, and was crying and said that, I don't know why the Muslims attacked me and beat me up this way, because I have always been pro-Palestine.
Well, there you go.
You see, it's the exact same mentality mm-hmm. as this person in this post. Mm-hmm. Because Marxists have long partnered with Muslims. The partnership between Marxists and Muslims goes back to the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem and Adolf Hitler, der Fuhrer. They met in 1941, and it was the Grand Mufti who convinced Hitler not to exile the Jews of Europe after robbing them, but instead to exterminate them. And it was immediately after that the concept of the final solution was developed, and that the concentration camps were turned from work camps into extermination camps. Hitler was a Marxist. This whole idea of being a fascist is just plain old poppycock. It was the German Socialist Workers' Party. He and Mussolini were both socialists. They only applied the term fascist because when Mussolini dressed it all up and became, this strong chin and this, man that tried to present himself as a damn god, from a marketing point of view, it was something that was a little different, and he could differentiate himself from the communists in Russia. And so they took on this different aura.
You mean
just
like
semantics,
you mean
purely
like,
semantics. There's no difference between a fascist and a socialist in practice, none.
Yeah.
And so Hitler was a Marxist, and it was the Marxist-Muslim partnership with Haj Histani, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, and der Fuhrer Adolf Hitler that is directly responsible for the annihilation of 6 million Jews during the Holocaust. And Marxist Jews still can't figure it out.
Nope. They're too busy convicting God for,
So you brought this on yourselves. You lost the war of public opinion. In fact, you didn't lose it. You forfeited it.
Yes.
And because you lost that war, it doesn't matter what happens in the other war, although the other war is unwinnable. Netanyahu continues to double down, triple down, quadruple down on this absolutely insane notion that Hamas can be removed from Gaza. That is not possible. It has not happened, and you've been at this war now for 22 months, and Gaza still is dominated by Hamas. I mean, just look at the food caravans. You got 20 guys with rifles and black outfits on every one of those trucks. They finally, though, stopped riding the flour trucks. You know why? There's so much flour in Gaza, they couldn't make a profit on it. So I started riding trucks with sugar and oil and other kinds of things. Because the moral of the story is flood Gaza with everything, and there won't be a market for anything. But Hamas dominates, and you can't rid Gaza of Hamas. There was a woman that was on an X feed saying, "And every house is Hamas. What are you going to do? Kill us all?" And that's your situation. So long as there are people in Gaza, those people will be Muslims. And so long as there are Muslims, there will be Hamas. Hamas is just like saying very, very good Muslim. That's just the
best of Muslims.
Hamas is the best of Muslims. Yes. And they're saying, well, Hamas must surrender. Do you know what the Quran says about a Muslim who surrenders?
Yep.
If you are a Muslim, and if you've even been a great fighter, but you surrender as a Muslim, Allah wants the really good Muslims to kill you so that he can torture you forever in the hottest places in hell. No good Muslim ever surrenders. Hamas are good Muslims. They will never surrender. Read the goddamn Quran so you know your enemy.
Read
Israel.
Their goddamn charter.
Good God. What's wrong with you? And so you're pursuing war goals that have a 0% chance of success, and you're applauding. Look at Gaza. Boy, we really did. We took it to them. This is what losing a war is all about. Yeah, you had the justification for doing it. That doesn't make it right. You dug your own grave in Gaza. And it's just going to get worse because you're going to have an Islamic State carved out of your heart. The very person who betrays you this way is Donald Trump. That is how I came to know that he is the person known as the Antichrist, the Towrahless one, the great betrayer.
The copper con.
To use Ezekiel's terms, the copper con. The copper confabulator.
Oh, yes.
If you don't know what the term confabulator means, it's a person
liar, liar, pants on fire.
And thinks things that have no context whatsoever with reality.
Or as I like to say, liar, liar, pants on fire.
Well, a confabulator doesn't necessarily even know they're lying.
No, they're just delusional.
They're delusional. Mm-hmm. It is a mental disorder. Mm-hmm. And that is the
president. And it typically comes with psychopathy.
Oh, yeah. He goes into great detail on his lies, too.
Oh, he's a confabulator of confabulations.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole nature of confabulating. So, at the specific appointed time of this occurrence, that'll be Towrah. He is reached out and he is extended, approaching, he is present. Yeah, I'm going to be right on the Temple Mount. And it's going to be the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah that finally resolves all of this so that the set apart ones will ultimately inherit this great wealth from God and become royalty. Do you know how the Adam of Parah makes it possible for the remnant of Yisrael who have been beleaguered up to this very moment to become royalty and to inherit all that God has to offer? How is that possible?
They do the ritual of the adulterous woman.
That's right. What happens here is that
a little burnt cow, a little water. Yeah. She goes to a bull. He uncovers her head. She has to drink the water. Either she has what they call a prolapse and miscarriage, or she conceives.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she's read the story that's in Numbers 5. Mm-hmm. It is the story that is in Numbers.
Do you know what the woman's called?
The story in number 19, that is the one that makes the story in Numbers 5 possible. And so the reason that this mortal remnant of Yisrael that's gathered now in Jerusalem, who are going to benefit from the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah. The reason that is the case is because she, as the now purged adulterous woman, is ready to be betrothed to her returning groom. And that
bridegroom.
And that groom is Dode David.
Yeah.
And when you marry the king, what do you become?
Princess. Queen.
Royalty.
Malaka.
Royalty, right?
Malaka.
So the reason that the mortal remnant of Israel becomes royalty with sovereignty and kingship is because they're being betrothed to the righteous king, to Dode. And at that moment, I will get
Are you starting to see a trend here, kids?
Yes.
Dode. Dode is the one. Dode is the one. Right. Dode is the one.
So at this point, the restoring witness, who is now the Adam of Parah, this bloody but productive bull, that he, at the end of what will be the greatest show on earth, I've told the story so many times, I don't need to repeat it here.
I think there's going to be some fireworks
but it's
there,
the greatest show on earth. At the end of that, his soul is going to join beside Dode. So when Dode comes back as Elyon, the right hand of God, the Adam of Parah, who is the restoring witness, who is Yada, who is the king's herald, is now going to join Dode as his best man.
So here we have two sets of things actually happening. We have the brothers, Jacob and Esau, coming back together.
Now, the reason she said the brothers Jacob and Esau come back together is because if you remember the story, when Yishak was there to bless the brothers, the eldest brother, who was Esau, was passed over for the blessing. He had been tricked by Jacob. And
manipulated.
Yahweh says that he indeed hated Esau. Esau became a killer. He was a hunter, whereas we have the
Jacob was a man of his tent.
A shepherd. Yeah. And so that is what occurred, and God declared his disgust for Esau at that time, and Esau became Edom, right? In fact, Amalek, one of the most fearsome of all of Israel's foes, Amalek was a descendant of Esau.
Yes.
Making Amalek the brother of the children of Israel. There is a very poignant prophecy in Yeshaya 63, very close to the end of the book, where Isaiah goes out of his mind. He is just like ecstatic. He says, oh my God, this guy, he is my Zeroah. He is the one that's harvesting the seeds that I have sown. He is my Zeroah. He's in the wine vat with me. There's finally somebody in this wine vat with me. And he's now dressed appropriately. And in his glorious red, this man from Edom is going to save many. And so the man from Edom is the Adam of Parah. And so by having the man from Edom save Yisrael, which is the other brother, Jacob, it's a sign that the family of God is being restored. Yisrael
in two different levels. You have both Yisrael and Yehuda. You have all the diaspora coming back. Everyone's there. And then you have the two brothers coming together. It's really full circle.
Yeah. So this is Daniel 7:22, and that is powerful. It is, in fact, the one statement is a show in and of itself. Maybe why, in the midst of it, Leah had to say, back and all, I'm going to come here and participate in this. So with us going deeper into Daniel, it's continuing to make it apparent that the belligerents are bad people and not rogue nations. So that's what the horns are. The loudest and meanest horn is a demon-possessed madman. He is the demonic Donald. And in this case, he is targeting the set apart, and that on this stage would be Yehudim and Yisraelites, as opposed to covenant members, because it's the mortal remnant of Yisrael who will remain susceptible up to the point of the sacrifice of what's called the red heifer, the Adam of Parah on Towrah. While God's family was protected and removed twice already. So they've been taken home both on Shabuah and the prior evening on Towrah. So during the time of Yaakov's troubles, the primary targets of disinformation and desolation will be Jews. It's going to be as foretold in Ezekiel's macabre portrayal of 25 ways to kill a Jew. For those that want to pretend like Ezekiel was a prophet as opposed to being Satan's.
No, I think it's perfect. Actually,
account.
I think it's so perfect. All the religious that love that goddamn book are going to suffer the fate of that book.
They are. But one of the ways that you know that the book of Ezekiel is fake is it's kind of fake.
Satanic.
It actually happens to be Satan's autobiographical account, so it's not really fake. It's just not prophetic. Although there are aspects of prophecy in it, because Satan exists outside of the confines of time. But there is an individual that I call the Copper Con or Bronze Boy that is a real estate magnate at the end of the story.
That's why he's always measuring.
That is, yes, measuring all of the grandiose edifice that's going to be Satan's naming rights, that it can be put in the ultimate location right on top of the Temple Mount. In fact, it covers all of Yehudah. It's the biggest building ever constructed. If it were actually get built, it will not.
Kind of like Trump saying it's all mine.
Yeah, it's mine. Trump will have his name on the tower. Yeah. It's Satan trumps gods. Satan trumps all. Perfect name for this. And it is the copper one, the bronze boy, who means this. We call him now the Orange Man. Is Donald Trump, this real estate developer that partners with Satan in committing this crime. Now, the other reason that we know that it's a false book is, of course, there's only one of the 7 of the Moed Mikre that is retained, and that's Passover, and its date is changed, and its purpose is changed, and it is removed from matzah, because Passover without matzah is exceedingly counterproductive.
Dangerous.
That will give you an extended trip to Sheol, hell, because you'll be immortal but not perfected. And it also has in it, the main theme of the book up to that point is
31,000 flavors to kill a Jew, or rape a Jew.
It's actually 25. I could probably extend it to 31 if I got nitpicky, but it's 20. The book explains 25 exceedingly graphic, sadistic ways to kill Jews. And you'd have to say, okay, what do you think the odds are that God...
In fact, Hitler would have been proud.
Yeah, inspired... Well, Hitler wasn't that perverse.
No.
Hitler killed a lot of Jews.
But he wasn't that perverse.
He didn't come up with 25 different ways to do it. No. He found a way and he kept at it. Now, the other thing is that tells you that Satan has a type and that his type is Donald. There's 2 chapters of Ezekiel that are nothing but grotesque and graphic rape scenes of young Israelis, pedophilic rape scenes of young Israelis.
Women.
And so it is...
That is his type.
Yeah, it is. Satan has a type. Satan's type is Muhammad. It's Paul. Sexual perverts.
Grotesque men.
Exceedingly egotistical liars. Confabulators. So Donald Trump.
Psychopaths.
You might say that how in the world could Donald Trump be Satan's guy, because he's supposed to be handsome and articulate and dashing and young. And no, the text actually says he's an old fart, and that he has to spend some time in a wheelchair. Because, that vascular disease by that time, 8 years from now in particular,
he'll be an old fogey.
He's an old fogey. And he's in bad shape. And it describes him with his most descriptive feature with goatish-like comb-over hair.
Because he's not giving up that tube.
Yeah.
Hell no.
So no, he's not going to lose his hair to the end. He'll keep.
No, he's keeping the tube.
According to
the
Daniel, who has seen him at that time. So that is what we're up against, and the ultimate salvation of Israel and the reason they become royal. And the fine justice in the end is that the Adam of Parah's sacrifice, based upon what Eliah has to say about it, and he's rehearsed. He did this exactly 40 Babel, 888 years earlier, with the exact same purpose, which was to besmirch the religious and political in Israel, and did it over a bull, where Yahweh will do exactly the same thing amidst an enormous amount of water is going to light the flames, and it's going to purge the final remnant of Yisrael, the ashes of the water
and it's going to kill all the rest.
Oh, it's going to incinerate everybody else.
Will all the Gazans be gone? Hell yes.
Yes.
They will.
You want to rid Gaza of Hamas? Well, Yahweh does have a plan for that. It's that all of the belligerents who have
but you have
that they
to
want
choose
to
the
harm
plan.
Jews will be incinerated instantly. As a matter of fact, what he says is that Gaza is turned into pasture for Israeli sheep. So there you go. He has not resorts, mind you, but pasture for his Israeli sheep. Is his?
I think I might have a few sheep there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So during the time of Jacob's troubles, as we have said, that the primary targets are Jews. That is why the portrayal of 25 ways to kill a Jew fills Ezekiel. 2 out of every 3 will succumb, as the promises of protection that the demonic Donald has provided turn out to be another lie.
Empty promises, lies, and confabulations.
And by the way, Donald Trump is, because there's other places where it says that the entire earth is going to be destroyed. Donald Trump has done his level best to start World War III.
Oh, absolutely.
His
pulling
movement
diplomats
of an arsenal of thermonuclear bombs from the United States to the United Kingdom, bombs that are designed to be carried on F-35 stealth fighters to the very airbase where the F-35 squadrons are kept in England. And then the orders to move 2 Ohio-class submarines to Russia's coastline, each carrying 1,000 times the firepower of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. That is where we are, and it all came because a non-government official in Israel put out a tweet that says, you're right after Donald moved the atomic bombs to the UK. And the tweet says, you don't want to have a first strike against Russia because the dead man, the dead hand, is still operable. And the dead hand is that if there is a strike against Russia, a nuclear strike against Russia, that takes out Russia's leader and its command and control systems, as would be America's strategy.
They have a backup plan. Imagine that.
They have
contingency.
Earthquake kind of Richter scale measurements that would measure large explosions like in a nuclear explosion. And they also have radiation sniffers that are positioned all around, particularly in the areas where they have command and control centers and within 1,000 miles of their coast. And that the combination of those 2 things without human intervention automatically retaliates, deploying all of Russia's nuclear missiles and submarine-based missiles all at the United States, all simultaneously.
The full force.
By remote control, all of which cannot be stopped. And so what Meldoviv was telling Trump by text is that don't do this, because if you proceed with this, the dead hand will retaliate. You cannot win this without killing everyone. One of the reasons I've speculated that Trump actually moved to Israel. Israel is the only country on earth where Trump is still respected and liked, popular. And number 2, there won't be a United States. In fact, it actually says in the text of Daniel that your country you destroyed.
Now imagine that. He's making America great again, folks.
Yeah, not so much. Not so much. So Trump's wars are not going to be limited to Alaska Flood 2.0, which is 1,000 times worse than Alaska Flood of 10.7 in Israel, but will also include escalating battles against Russia and China. The man who lost to the Houthis will double down on defeat, destroying not only Israel, but America with it. But in this case, the victims will have no one to blame but themselves. It has long been obvious that Trump is unmitigated in his disastrous chaos, that he is a confabulator, that he is insane. And yet both nations, Americans and also Israelis, are unaware that he's betraying them.
They will pay, dearly for it.
As for this war, Yashaya and Yoel both speak of it. The invading militants are terrorists, and they will flood into Israel in such numbers that the hills crawl with them, looking like waves with too many jihadists to count. And they will invade Jewish homes, literally crawling through the windows, with the carnage being unmatched in human history, far worse than the atrocities perpetrated by Muslims on October 7th, 2023.
It'll be worse than Kaibar. Much worse.
The only one standing between Israel and the hell Trump is bringing upon them is Yah's restoring witness.
That would be you?
A 74-year-old man armed with nothing but words.
And a little ratchet dog.
Yeah, well, Wookie has volunteered to be there. He doesn't like loud noises, though, so I don't know how well this is going to do for him.
I don't think he'll like Trump either.
Yeah. Wook actually gets nervous when I talk loudly. Wook doesn't mind his own bark, but I'm not sure that Wookie is going to be the best wingman of all time for that particular job. He may have to stay with Leia and Shamaim. I think he'll like Shamaim. The Wookiee will be a prince among dogs, and Shamaim.
He says as long as he can choose his own slave.
So he may be long in days, which is true, but prior preparation is going to have an enormous investment, and the time away of 3 years is going to be enormously energizing in this regard. And so when it comes down to drawing his people from harm's way, God has a propensity for more mature individuals anyway, choosing Moshe when he was 80. So that's why he calls me young man, I suspect. Every time we talk, yes, young man. What can I do for you now, young man? Okay, young man, I answered that question before. Let me show you where to look. He's just always just tongue in cheek and so sarcastic. I love it. Keeps you humble. I mean, that and being called the Palmoni because I had the gall to say I could best the platypus. I'll never live that one down, obviously.
Nope, my little Palmoni.
Anyway, I'll be done before this will be reconciled. It'll all be resolved favorably. There is a happily ever after. And it is also revealing that the weapon that the restoring witness will wield to protect the mortal remnant of Yisrael is effectively good judgment. He is a really judgy sort of a guy. So he was at least properly cast for that particular role. It has always been what Yehudim have lacked in their approach to Yahweh. Sound thinking is the cure for all that has ailed the chosen people. But it begs the question with an answer this direct and obvious. Why does it take a goy to deliver it?
Because we're busy being political and goddamn religious. That's why, darling.
That is true.
And the few of us that are seeking don't know where to look because the noise is so loud out there. Everybody's got a goddamn answer and they're all wrong.
somewhere on my, when you get friend requests on Facebook, somewhere I may have clicked, when you have 20 presented, you just don't have time to go to everybody's site, you got other things to do. I must have clicked on somebody that was a rabbi. And so in my feed now, I get these recording audios from Jews promoting rabbinic Judaism. And I don't want to get rid of them because I really like exposing them and condemning them. And one of the last ones that I saw had a Jew say, well, what do we Jews believe? And it says, well, we Jews believe in debate. And therefore,
they got it right.
There are many things that we Jews believe.
Yeah.
And then he went on to talk about the 13 principles of Judaism as articulated by the Rambam, Maimonides. And he went through this, and I've actually written posts that have proven all 13 of those
Maimonides is a super creep
to be false. But never once that he says Judaism is based on our love and devotion for Yahweh.
Nope. It's based on our mental masturbation and debate with God.
Never once mentioned the covenant. Never once mentioned the Moed Mikre, the invitations to be part of God's
never
family.
Mentions Dode.
Never once mentioned Dode David, who is the means to one that actually fulfilled all of these things. Never once. Nope. They're just too full of themselves.
We worship dead rabbis.
Well, since God is careful about what he says, there is no chance that the substitution of the vastly less common Elyon was used here at this time and place as opposed to El or Elohim. And the reason should be obvious. I've already mentioned it. Yahweh uses Elyon to describe his son Dode upon his return with him as king. This means that the one of two reasons that the restoring witness, his thinking turns out to be, and his judgment turns out to be healing, because he is aware of God's affinity for his firstborn and the accomplishments of God's firstborn son during Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim. It means that Dode's fulfillment of Chag Matzah contribute to the reconciliation of Yisrael and to the return of the king and to the remnant of Yisrael finally receiving their inheritance. Now, it's amazing that the person facilitating the inheritance of Jews is a goy. It was a goy that took it away, Paul. Paul created Christianity by stealing the Messiah of Yisrael and stealing the inheritance of Yisrael, and then condemning Yisrael so that he could justify stealing what was theirs. And so now it is 2,000 years later, it's a goy taking it away from Paul and
giving it back
to the Jews. Having written the 5 volumes of Twistianity to demonstrate that Paul stole it, and then having been the first to realize that Dode David is the real Messiah and the Son of God who fulfilled Passover, and so redelivering it appropriately. Isn't it just amazing the way God has decided that this story is going to be known and told? Yes. I just think it's one of the great plot twists in human history. To have a goy steal it in Paul and create the most popular religion in the world, and then have a goy said, nope, you're not going to do that. He goes in and creams Paul, absolutely negates everything that he said, proves that Jesus never existed, was nothing but a crude counterfeit, and brings the inheritance back and the Messiah back to the Jewish people.
It's a hell of a story.
That's a hell of a story. And you know something? That's where we're going to end this program, because it doesn't get better than that. I thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Leah, for participating. Wookie, good to see you back there in the driver's seat there, buddy. We'll be with you again tomorrow. Good day.